I met my dad's secret girlfriend and realized he has been lying about who he is. Trust takes a lifetime to build, and exactly one dinner reservation to destroy completely. When my dad told me he had been seeing someone for 2 years, I was hurt by the secrecy, but I was willing to forgive him because he was my best friend. But as I sat across from this elegant woman, I realized the betrayal wasn't about the time he hid her. It was about the personality he stole from her. Every piece of advice he gave me during my darkest moments wasn't his wisdom. It was hers, and I felt sick to my stomach. If you asked me to describe my father 3 years ago, I would have told you he was a quiet, stoic man who liked the news and simple coffee. If you asked me to describe him 3 months ago, I would have told you he was my best friend, a man of surprising depth, filled with quirky wisdom and a sudden, passionate zest for life. I preferred the second version. I needed the second version. My family history is not exactly a fairy tale. My childhood is a blur of slammed doors, and my mother's voice raised to a pitch that could shatter glass. My parents separated before I was born, but they didn't physically separate until the lockdowns of the recent pandemic forced the issue. For years, I lived in a war zone where my existence felt like collateral damage. My mother had a way of twisting reality. She often accused me of conspiring with my father against her. If I smiled at him, it was an act of treason. If we watched a movie together, it was an alliance built on hating her. Because of this, my relationship with my dad became my lifeline. While my brother dealt with the trauma by becoming volatile and unreliable, disappearing for days and snapping at everyone when he returned, I dealt with it by clinging to stability. My dad was that stability. Once my parents finally moved into separate houses, the fog lifted. For the first time, I could breathe, and in that fresh air, my relationship with my dad blossomed. He became the only family member I truly trusted. I am not close to my aunts, my uncles are distant figures in holiday photos, and my cousins are strangers with the same last name. It was just me and Dad against the world. We developed a rhythm. We would meet for dinner once a week, and I would pour my heart out. He knows about the anxiety that keeps me up at night. He knows about the friendships I've lost, and the trust issues that make it hard for me to let people in. He never judged me. He just listened, offering advice that felt profound and tailored exactly to what I needed to hear. He changed, too. Over the last couple of years, he seemed to soften. He started using phrases like, "The universe doesn't make mistakes, only detours," and developed a sudden interest in independent films and specific types of jazz. I loved this evolution. I thought it was him healing from the toxicity of my mother, just like I was. I thought we were growing together. I felt safe. I felt seen. I had no idea that the man I was bonding with didn't really exist. The crack in the foundation appeared on a Tuesday evening. We were sitting in our usual coffee spot, the one with the mismatched armchairs. I was telling him about a difficult situation at work, and he was nodding, doing that thoughtful thing where he taps his chin. "You know," he said, interrupting me gently, "I think it's time you met someone." I blinked, confused. "Meet who? A career counselor?" He laughed, a light, airy sound that I had come to love recently. "No, sweetie, a woman. I've been seeing someone." My stomach did a little flip. I had never known my dad to date. In my entire life, I had never seen him hold hands with anyone or show romantic interest. He had always been just Dad. "Oh," I said, trying to mask my surprise. Wow, that's great, Dad. How long has this been going on? A few weeks?" He looked down at his cup, tracing the rim with his finger. "Actually, it's been about 2 years." The air left my lungs. 2 years? 2 years is a long time. 2 years meant he was dating her while I was crying on his shoulder about my trust issues. 2 years meant he was with her during the holidays where he said he was just relaxing at home. 2 years of hiding a massive part of his life while I was stripping my soul bare to him. 2 years, I repeated, my voice sounding smaller than I intended. "I wanted to be sure," he said earnestly, leaning forward. "You know how hard it is with your mother. I didn't want to bring anyone into the chaos until I knew it was real, until I knew she was the one." I nodded slowly. Logically, I understood. As a child of divorce, I respected the desire to protect a new relationship from family drama. I respected his privacy. But emotionally, it stung. It felt like he had a secret life that I wasn't worthy of knowing about until now. "Okay," I managed to say, forcing a smile. I get it, I really do. If she makes you happy, I want to meet her. She does make me happy, he beamed. You'll love her. She's special. He set the date for the following weekend, an Italian restaurant downtown. I went home that night feeling a mix of apprehension and curiosity. I told myself that this was a good thing. My dad deserved happiness. He deserved love. I pushed down the hurt about the secrecy and focused on being a supportive daughter. The night of the dinner, my brother actually showed up. This was rare. He usually avoided family gatherings, but the news of Dad's girlfriend of 2 years was apparently enough to pull him out of his seclusion. We walked toward the restaurant together, the evening air crisp against my face. My brother noticed I was wringing my hands. You okay? He asked, nudging my shoulder. Yeah, just nervous, I admitted. I don't even know what she looks like. He didn't show me a picture. I only know her name is Elena. It's weird, right? My brother muttered, glancing at me. 2 years. That's a hell of a poker face he's got. He was protecting her, I said, automatically defending him. Maybe, my brother shrugged, or maybe he's just good at hiding things. We entered the restaurant lobby. It was warm, smelling of garlic and expensive wine. And there she was. My dad was standing next to a woman who looked like she had stepped out of a magazine for elegant, artistic living. She had long, flowing silver hair that fell down her back in waves, and she was wearing a shawl that looked both casual and incredibly chic. She had a warm smile, the kind that reaches the eyes instantly. She gave off the energy of a favorite art teacher or a librarian who knows exactly which book will change your life. There they are, my dad announced, waving us over. We approached, and the introductions were made. Her voice was melodic, soothing. She hugged me immediately, and unlike most stranger hugs, it didn't feel stiff. It felt genuine. I've heard so much about you, she said, pulling back to look at me. Your dad is so proud of the woman you're becoming. We moved to our table. The tension of the first meeting began to dissipate as the appetizers arrived. My brother was surprisingly charming, and I found myself relaxing. She was nice. She was intelligent. I could see why my dad liked her. But as the main course arrived, I started to notice something. It started as a small itch in the back of my brain, a sense of déjà vu that I couldn't quite place. The conversation turned to movies. I truly believe, Elena said, swirling her wine glass, that Cinema Paradiso is the only film that captures the true essence of nostalgia. It's not about the plot, it's about the feeling of time passing. I froze with my fork halfway to my mouth. 6 months ago, my dad and I had watched that exact movie. Afterward, he had turned to me and said, almost word for word, it's not about the plot, it's about the feeling of time passing. At the time, I had been blown away by his insight. I had thought, wow, Dad is really getting deep. I looked at him now. He was nodding along with her, his eyes shining. Exactly, he said. It's the atmosphere. I tried to shake it off. Maybe they just agreed on movies. Couples do that. But then the waiter came to take our dessert order. I'll have the tiramisu, Elena said, but only if it's not too sweet. I believe dessert should be a closing statement, not a sugar rush. My blood ran cold. My dad has a massive sweet tooth. Or he used to. About a year ago, he stopped ordering chocolate cake and started ordering cheese plates or tart sorbets. When I asked him why, he had told me, dessert should be a closing statement, not a sugar rush. He hadn't just adopted her taste, he had adopted her script. I started watching them closely, my appetite completely gone. I watched the way she used her hands when she spoke, sweeping gestures, palms open. I looked at my dad. He was doing the exact same thing. He used to keep his hands folded on the table or in his lap. Now he was conducting the conversation with his hands, mirroring her perfectly. Then came the humor. My brother made a self-deprecating joke about his job stability. Elena chuckled, a specific throaty laugh, and said, well, chaos is just the universe reorganizing the furniture. My dad laughed. That's right, reorganizing the furniture. He had said that to me 2 weeks ago when I lost my keys. I looked from her to him, and the realization hit me with the force of a physical blow. The new dad, the insightful, artistic, jazzy, philosophical dad I had grown so close to over the last 2 years, wasn't him. It was her. All those meaningful conversations we had, I wasn't talking to him. I was talking to a parrot repeating things he had heard on his dates. The bond I felt, the similarity I thought we shared. It was all a lie. He had simply absorbed her personality like a sponge and squeezed it out onto me. I looked at his face. He looked so happy, so comfortable. And why wouldn't he be? He didn't have to be himself. He had found someone to provide him with a personality. The rest of the dinner was a blur. I smiled, I nodded, I answered questions, but inside I felt like the wires connecting me to my father were being cut, one by one. It wasn't just that they shared interests. That happens. It was the specificity of it. It was the cadence of speech. It was the fact that he had presented these things to me as his thoughts, his discoveries, his wisdom. He had taken credit for her soul. When the check came, I felt an overwhelming urge to flee. I hugged Elena goodbye. "It was lovely to meet you," I said, and I meant it. She was a lovely woman. In fact, I realized I liked her a lot. I liked her because I had already spent 2 years loving her personality. I just thought it belonged to my dad. My dad walked me to my car. "So?" he asked, his face eager, like a child showing off a drawing. "What did you think?" I looked at him. I looked at the man I had trusted with my deepest secrets. Suddenly, he looked blurry, indistinct. "She's great, Dad," I said. My voice sounded hollow to my own ears. "She's really great." "I knew you'd get along," he said, patting my arm. "You two are very alike." I almost laughed. Of course we were alike. We were both influencing him, but he was only mirroring her. Driving home, the silence in my car was suffocating. I started to feel uneasy, a physical nausea rising in my chest. I felt violated. I know that sounds extreme, but that's how it felt. I had opened up to him because I thought he understood me. I thought his advice came from his own heart, from his own experiences as my father. But it didn't. He was just a middleman. I thought about the time I cried to him about feeling lost in my career, and he gave me a speech about finding the rhythm in the noise. I had written that down in my journal. I had cherished that advice. Now I knew Elena had probably said it to him over wine a week prior. It has been a few days since the dinner. I haven't called him. He sent me a text this morning. "Thinking of you. Hope you're having a good week." I stared at the screen and couldn't type back. I feel a disconnect that is hard to explain to anyone who hasn't felt it. It's like discovering your house is built on sand. I realized I didn't know my dad as well as I thought I did. If he had never told me about his girlfriend, I wouldn't have ever imagined he was dating someone, much less that he had been with someone for 2 years. But more than that, if I stripped away the parts of him that are clearly Elena, what is left? Who is he? I feel like the person I spent so much time confiding in wasn't ever really there. I feel like I've been talking to a stranger. Everyone is a collection of bits and pieces of their loved ones. I get that. We all pick up slang from our friends or habits from our partners, but this feels different. This feels like a total overwrite. I'm not mad. Not exactly. I'm not screaming or throwing things. I just feel empty. I feel like all these years I spent building a strong foundation of trust and honesty feels one-sided. I showed him all of me. He showed me a performance of someone else. I'm happy he's found someone. Elena seems wonderful. She seems like the kind of person who deserves to be loved. But I just feel like I'm observing them from behind a glass wall now. I don't feel the itch to fight for my place in his life anymore. I find myself wanting to pull away. It's a defense mechanism, I know. It's my trust issues rearing their ugly head, the very trust issues he helped me work through using Elena's borrowed wisdom. It feels wrong to distance myself, especially since he is the only family I have left. But how do you be vulnerable with someone who doesn't have their own voice? I'm writing this before I sleep so I don't have to toss and turn thinking about it. I just want to let him be happy with his girlfriend. I want to fade into the background. I love my dad. I do. And maybe, with time, I can move past this. Maybe I can learn to love this new version of him, even if it is a copy. But right now, I'm just worried that if I pull away, I'll damage what I've spent years tending to. But if I stay, I have to pretend I don't see the strings. What can you do? Time will tell. If anyone reads this, thank you for listening. I hope I made at least a little bit of sense. Good night.